The Great Smoky Mountains are a mountain range rising along the Tennessee-North Carolina border in the southeastern United States. They are a subrange of the Appalachian Mountains, and form part of the Blue Ridge Physiographic Province. The range is sometimes called the Smoky Mountains and the name is commonly shortened to the Smokies. The Great Smokies are best known as the home of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, which protects most of the range. The park was established in 1934, and, with over 9 million visits per year, it is the most visited national park in the United States. The Great Smokies are part of an International Biosphere Reserve. The range is home to an estimated 187,000 acres of old-growth forest, constituting the largest such stand east of the Mississippi River. The cove hardwood forests in the range's lower elevations are among the most diverse ecosystems in North America, and the Southern Appalachian spruce-fir forest that coats the range's upper elevations is the largest of its kind. The Great Smokies are also home to the densest black bear population in the eastern United States and the most diverse salamander population outside of the tropics. Along with the Biosphere Reserve, the Great Smokies have been designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The U.S. National Park Service preserves and maintains 78 structures within the national park that were once part of the numerous small Appalachian communities scattered throughout the range's river valleys and coves. The park contains 5 historic districts and 9 individual listings on the National Register of Historic Places. The name Smoky comes from the natural fog that often hangs over the range and presents as large smoke plumes from a distance. This fog is caused by the vegetation exhaling volatile organic compounds, chemicals that have a high vapor pressure and easily form vapors at normal temperature and pressure. Geography. The Great Smoky Mountains stretch from the Pigeon River in the northeast to the Little Tennessee River to the southwest. The northwestern half of the range gives way to a series of elongate ridges known as the foothills, the outermost of which include Chilhowee Mountain and English Mountain. The range is roughly bounded on the south by the Tuckasegee River and to the southeast by Saco Creek and Jonathan Creek. The Great Smokies comprise parts of Blount County, Sevier County, and Cook County in Tennessee and Swain County and Haywood County in North Carolina. The sources of several rivers are located in the Smokies, including the Little Pigeon River, the Oconaluftee River, and Little River. Streams in the Smokies are part of the Tennessee River watershed and are thus entirely west of the Eastern Continental Divide. The largest stream wholly within the park is Abrams Creek, which rises in Cad's Cove and empties into the Chilhowee Lake impoundment of the Little Tennessee River near Chilhowee Dam. Other major streams include Hazel Creek and Eagle Creek in the southwest, Raven Fork near Oconaluftee, Cosby Creek near Cosby, and Roaring Fork near Gatlinburg. The Little Tennessee River passes through 5 impoundments along the range's southwestern boundary, namely Tellico Lake, Chilhowee Lake, Calderwood Lake, Chaya Lake, and Fontana Lake. Notable peaks: the highest point in the Smokies is Clingman's Dome, which rises to an elevation of 6,643 feet. The mountain is the highest in Tennessee and the 3rd highest in the Appalachian Range. Clingman's Dome also has the range's highest topographical prominence at 4,503 feet. Mount LeConte is the tallest mountain in the range, rising 5,301 feet from its base in Gatlinburg to its 6,593-foot summit. Climate: the Smokies rise prominently above the surrounding low terrain. For example, Mount LeConte rises more than a mile above its base. Because of their prominence, the Smokies receive heavy annual amounts of precipitation. Annual precipitation amounts range from 50 to 80 inches, and snowfall in the winter can be heavy, especially on the higher slopes. For comparison, the surrounding terrain has annual precipitation of around 40 to 50 inches. Flooding often occurs after heavy rain. In 2004, the remnants of Hurricane Francis caused major flooding, landslides, and high winds, which was soon followed by Hurricane Ivan, making the situation worse. Other post-hurricanes, including Hurricane Hugo in 1989, have caused similar damage in the Smokies. Geology. Most of the rocks in the Great Smoky Mountains consist of late Precambrian rocks that are part of a formation known as the Orcoese supergroup. The Orcoese supergroup consists primarily of slightly metamorphosed sandstones, phyllites, schists, and slate. Early Precambrian rocks, which include the oldest rocks in the Smokies, comprise the dominant rock type in the Raven Fork Valley and Upper Tuckasegee River between Cherokee and Bryson City. They consist primarily of metamorphic gneiss, granite, and schist. Cambrian sedimentary rocks are found among the outer reaches of the foothills to the northwest and in limestone coves such as Cad's Cove. The Precambrian gneiss and schists are the oldest rocks in the Smokies are formed over 1 billion years ago from the accumulation of marine sediments and igneous rock in a primordial ocean. In the late Precambrian period, this ocean expanded, and the more recent Orcoese supergroup rocks formed from accumulations of the eroding land mass onto the ocean's continental shelf. By the end of the Paleozoic era, the ancient ocean had deposited a thick layer of marine sediments which left behind sedimentary rocks such as limestone. During the Ordovician period, the North American and African plates collided, destroying the ancient ocean and initiating the Allegheny and Orogeny the mountain-building epoch that created the Appalachian Range. The Mesozoic era saw the rapid erosion of the softer sedimentary rocks from the new mountains, re-exposing the older Orcoese supergroup formations. Around 20,000 years ago, subarctic glaciers advanced southward across North America, and although they never reached the Smokies, the advancing glaciers led to colder mean annual temperatures and an increase in precipitation throughout the range. Trees were unable to survive at the higher elevations, and were replaced by tundra vegetation. Spruce-fir forests occupied the valleys and slopes below approximately 4,950 feet. The persistent freezing and thawing during this period created the large blockfields that are often found at the base of large mountain slopes. Between 16,500 and 12,500 years ago, the glaciers to the north retreated and mean annual temperatures rose. The tundra vegetation disappeared, and the spruce-fir forests retreated to the highest elevations. Hardwood trees moved into the region from the coastal plains, replacing the spruce-fir forests in the lower elevations. The temperatures continued warming until around 6,000 years ago, when they began to gradually grow cooler. Flora. Heavy logging in the late 19th century and early 20th century devastated much of the forests of the Smokies, but the National Park Service estimates 187,000 acres of old-growth forest remains, comprising the largest old-growth stand in the eastern United States. Most of the forest is a mature second-growth hardwood forest. The range's 1,600 species of flowering plants include over 100 species of native trees and 100 species of native shrubs. The Great Smokies are also home to over 450 species of non-vascular plants, and 2,000 species of fungi. The forests of the Smokies are typically divided into 3 zones: the cove hardwood forests in the stream valleys, coves, and lower mountain slopes. The northern hardwood forests on the higher mountain slopes. The spruce-fir boreal forest at the very highest elevations. Appalachian balds are patches of land where trees are unexpectedly absent or sparse or interspersed through the mid to upper elevations in the range. Balds include grassy balds, which are highland meadows covered primarily by thick grasses, and heath balds, which are dense thickets of rhododendron and mountain laurel typically occurring on narrow ridges. Mixed oak pine forests are found on dry ridges, especially on the south-facing North Carolina side of the range. Stands dominated by the eastern hemlock are occasionally found along streams and broad slopes above 3,500 feet. The cove hardwood forest. Cove hardwood forests, which are native to southern Appalachia, are among the most diverse forest types in North America. The cove hardwood forests of the Smokies are mostly second growth, although some 72,000 acres are still old growth. The Albright Grove along the Madron Ball Trail is an accessible old-growth forest with some of the oldest and tallest trees in the entire range. Over 130 species of trees are found among the canopies of the cove hardwood forests in the Smokies. The dominant species include yellow birch, basswood, yellow buckeye, tulip tree, silverbells, sugar maple, cucumber magnolia, shagback hickory, Carolina hemlock and eastern hemlock. The American chestnut, which was arguably the most beloved tree of the range's pre-park inhabitants, was killed off by the introduced chestnut blight in the 1920s. The understories of the Cove hardwood forest contain dozens of species of shrubs and vines. Dominant species in the Smokies include the eastern redbud, flowering dogwood, Catawba rhododendron, mountain laurel, and smooth hydrangea. The northern hardwood forest. The mean annual temperatures in the higher elevations in the Smokies are cool enough to support forest types more commonly found in the northern United States. The northern hardwood forests of the Smokies constitute the highest broad-leaved forest in the eastern United States. About 28,600 acres of the northern hardwood forest are old growth. In the Smokies, the northern hardwood canopies are dominated by yellow birch and American beech. White basswood, mountain maple and striped maple, and yellow buckeye are also present. The northern hardwood understory is home to diverse species such as coneflower, skunk goldenrod, Rugel's ragwort, bloodwort, hydrangea, and several species of grasses and ferns. One unique community in the northern hardwoods of the Smokies is the beech gap, or beech orchard. Beech gaps consist of high mountain gaps that have been monopolized by beech trees. The beech trees are often twisted and contorted by the high winds that occur in these gaps. Why other tree types such as the red spruce fail to encroach into the beech gaps is unknown. The spruce-fir forest. The spruce-fir forest also called the boreal, or Canadian forest is a relict of the Ice Ages, when mean annual temperatures in the Smokies were too cold to support a hardwood forest. While the rise in temperatures between 12,500 and 6,000 years ago allowed the hardwoods to return, the spruce-fir forest has managed to survive on the harsh mountain tops, typically above 5,500 feet. About 10,600 acres of the spruce-fir forest are old growth. The spruce-fir forest consists primarily of two conifer species red spruce and Fraser fir. The Fraser firs, which are native to southern Appalachia, once dominated elevations above 6,200 feet in the Great Smokies. Most of these firs were killed, however, by an infestation of the balsam woolly adelgid, which arrived in the Smokies in the early 1960s. Thus, red spruce is now the dominant species in the range's spruce-fir forest. Large stands of dead Fraser firs remain atop Klingman's Dome and on the northwestern slopes of Old Black. While much of the red spruce stands in the Smokies were logged during World War I, the tree is still common throughout the range above 5,500 feet. Some of the red spruce trees in the Smokies are believed to be 300 years old, and the tallest rise to over 100 feet. The main difference between the spruce-fir forests of southern Appalachia and the spruce-fir forests in northern latitudes is the dense broad-leaved understory of the former. The spruce-fir understories of the Smokies are home to Catawba rhododendron, mountain ash, pin cherry, thornless blackberry, and hobblebush. The herbaceous and little layers of the spruce-fir forests are poorly lit year-round, and are thus dominated by shade-tolerant plants such as ferns, namely mountain wood fern and northern lady fern, and over 280 species of mosses. Wildflowers. Many wildflowers grow in mountains and valleys of the Great Smokies, including bee balm, Solomon seal, Dutchman's breeches, various trilliums, the dragon's advocate and even hardy orchids. There are 2 native species of rhododendron in the area. The Catawba rhododendron has purple flowers in May and June, while the Rosebay rhododendron has longer leaves and blooms white or a light pink in June and July. The orange to sometimes red-flowered and deciduous flame azalea closely follows along with the Catawbas. The closely related mountain laurel blooms in between the two, and all of the blooms progress from lower to higher elevations. The reverse is true in autumn, when nearly bare mountain tops covered in rime ice can be separated from green valleys by very bright and varied leaf colors. The rhododendrons are broadleaves, whose leaves droop in order to shed wet and heavy snows that come through the region during winter. Fauna. The Great Smoky Mountains are home to 66 species of mammals, over 240 species of birds, 43 species of amphibians, 60 species of fish, and 40 species of reptiles. The range has the densest black bear population east of the Mississippi River. The black bear has come to symbolize wildlife in the Smokies, and the animal frequently appears on the covers of the Great Smoky Mountains National Parks literature. Most of the range's adult eastern black bears weigh between 100 pounds and 300 pounds, although some grow to more than 500 pounds. Other mammals in the Great Smokies include the white-tailed deer, the population of which drastically expanded with the creation of the national park. The bobcat is the range's only remaining wildcat species, although sightings of mountain lions which once thrived in the are still occasionally reported. The coyote is not believed to be native to the range, but has moved into the area in recent years and is treated as a native species. Two species of fox the red fox and the gray fox are found in the Smokies, with red foxes being documented at all elevations. European boars, introduced as game animals in the early 20th century, thrive in southern Appalachia but are considered a nuisance due to their tendency to root up and destroy plants. The boars are seen as taking food resources away from bears as well, and the Park Service has sponsored a program that pays individuals to hunt and kill boars and leave their bodies in locations frequented by bears. The Smokies are home to over 24 species of rodents, including the endangered northern flying squirrel, and 10 species of bats, including the endangered Indiana bat. The National Park Service has successfully reintroduced river otters and elk into the Great Smokies. An attempt to reintroduce the red wolf in the early 1990s ultimately failed. The Smokies are home to a diverse bird population due to the presence of multiple forest types. Species that thrive in southern hardwood forests, such as the red-eyed vireo, wood thrush, wild turkey, northern parula, ruby-throated hummingbird, and tufted titmouse, are found throughout the range's lower elevations and cove hardwood forests. Species more typical of cooler climates, such as the northern raven, winter wren, black-capped chickadee, yellow-bellied sapsucker, dark-eyed junco, and black burnian, chestnut-sided, and Canada warblers, are found in the range's spruce-fir and northern hardwood zones. Ovenbirds, whippoorwills, and downy woodpeckers live in the drier pine-oak forests and heath balls. Bald eagles and golden eagles have been spotted at all elevations in the park. Peregrine falcon sightings are also not uncommon, and a peregrine falcon area is known to have existed near Alum Cave Bluffs throughout the 1930s. Red-tailed hawks, the most common hawk species, have been sighted at all elevations in the range. Owl species residing in the Smokies include the bud owl, eastern screech owl, and northern saw-whet owl. Timber rattlesnakes are one of two venomous snake species in the Smokies are found at all elevations in the range. The other venomous snake, the copperhead, is typically found at lower elevations. Other reptiles include the eastern box turtle, the fence lizard, the black rat snake, and the northern water snake. The Great Smokies are home to one of the world's most diverse salamander populations. 5 of the world's 9 families of salamanders are found in the range, consisting of up to 31 species. A type of Jordan's salamander known as the red-cheek salamander is found only in the Smokies. The imitator salamander is found only in the Smokies and the nearby Plot Balsams and Great Balsam Mountains. 2 other species the southern gray-cheeked salamander and the southern Appalachian salamander occur only in the general region. Other species include the shovelnose, blackbelly salamander, eastern red-spotted newt, and spotted dusky salamander. The legendary hellbender inhabits the range's swifter streams. Other amphibians include the American toad and the American bullfrog, wood frog, upland chorus frog, northern green frog, and spring peeper. Fish inhabiting the streams of the Smokies include trout, lamprey, darter, shiner, bass, and sucker. The brook trout is the only trout species native to the range, although northwestern rainbow trout and European brown trout were introduced in the first half of the 20th century. The larger rainbow and brown trout outcompete the native brook trout for food and habitat at lower elevations. As such, most of the brook trout found in the park today are in streams above 3,000 feet in elevation. Trout in the Smokies are generally smaller than other members of their species in different locales. Protected fish species in the range include the smoky and yellowfin midtom, the spotfin chub, and the dusky-tailed darter. The lightning bug firefly Photinus carolinus, whose synchronized flashing light displays occur in mid-June, is native to the Smoky Mountains with a population epicenter near Elkmont, Tennessee. Ecosystem threats. Air pollution may be contributing to increased red spruce tree mortality at higher elevations and oak decline at lower elevations, while invasive hemlock woolly adelgids attack hemlocks and balsam woolly adelgids attack Fraser firs. Pseudosymnist shugae, a type of beetle in the ladybug family, Coccinellidae, has been introduced in an attempt to control the pests. Visibility now is dramatically reduced by smog from both the southeastern United States and the Midwest, and smog forecasts are prepared daily by the Environmental Protection Agency for both nearby Knoxville, Tennessee and Asheville, North Carolina. Environmental threats are the concern of many non-profit environmental stewardship groups, especially the Friends of the Smokies. Formed in 1993, the Friends Group assists the National Park Service in its mission to preserve and protect the Great Smoky Mountains National Park by raising funds and public awareness, and providing volunteers for needed projects. History. Prehistory. Native Americans have likely been hunting in the Great Smoky Mountains for 14,000 years. Numerous archaic period artifacts have been found within the national park's boundaries, including projectile points uncovered along likely animal migration paths. Woodland period sites found within the park contain 2,000 plus-minus-year-old ceramics and evidence of primitive agriculture. The increasing reliance upon agriculture during the Mississippian period lured Native Americans away from the game-rich forests of the Smokies and into the fertile river valleys on the outer fringe of the range. Substantial Mississippian period villages were uncovered at Sitico and Toqua along the Little Tennessee River in the 1960s. Fortified Mississippian period villages have been excavated at the McMahon Indian Mounds in Sevierville and more recently in Townsend. Most of these villages were part of a minor chiefdom centered around a large village known as Chaya, which was located on an island now submerged by Douglas Lake. A 1540 expedition of Hernando de Soto and the 1567 expedition of Juan Pardo passed through the French Broad River Valley north of the Smokies, both spending a considerable amount of time at Chaya. The Pardo expedition followed a trail across the flanks of Chilhowee Mountain to the Mississippian period villages at Chilhowee and Sitico. The Cherokee. By the time the first English explorers arrived in southern Appalachia in the late 17th century, the Cherokee controlled much of the region, and the Great Smoky Mountains lay at the center of their territory. One Cherokee legend tells of a magical lake hidden deep within the range, but inaccessible to humans. Another tells of a captured Shawnee medicine man named Iganu Nitsi who, in exchange for his freedom, travels to the remote sections of the range in search of the Urkna. The Cherokee called Gregory Bort's Sioux, or Rabbit Place, and believed the mountain to be the domain of the Great Rabbit. Other Cherokee place names in the Smokies included Dunisqualgunai, or Forked Antlers, which referred to the chimney tops, and Kaihi, or Mulberry Place, which referred to Clingman's Dome. Most Cherokee settlements were located in the river valleys on the outer fringe of the Great Smokies Range. The Smokies, along with the Unicoi, provided the main bulwark dividing the Overall Cherokee villages in modern Tennessee from the Cherokee and Middle towns in modern North Carolina. The Overall town of Chilhowee was situated at the confluence of Abrams Creek and the Little Tennessee, and the Overall town of Tallahassee was located just a few miles upstream near modern Calderwood. A string of Overall villages, including Cota and Tennessee, dotted the Little Tennessee Valley north of Chilhowee. The Cherokee and Middle towns included the village of Kittowa along the Tuckasegee River near Bryson City. The village of Econolofty, which was situated along the Econolofty River near the modern Econolofty Visitor Center, was the only known permanent Cherokee village located within the national park's boundaries. Sporadic or seasonal settlements were located in Cad's Cove and the Hazel Creek Valley. European settlement. European explorers and settlers began arriving in western North Carolina and East Tennessee in the mid-18th century. The influx of settlers at the end of the French and Indian War brought conflict with the Cherokee, who still held legal title to much of the land. When the Cherokee aligned themselves with the British at the outbreak of the American Revolution in 1776, American forces launched an invasion of Cherokee territory. The middle towns, including Katua, were burned by General Griffith Rutherford, and several of the overall towns were burned by John Sevier. By 1805, the Cherokee had ceded control of the Great Smokies to the U.S. government. Although much of the tribe was forced west along the Trail of Tears in 1838, a few largely through the efforts of William Holland Thomas managed to retain their land on the Qualla boundary and today comprise the eastern band of Cherokee Indians. In the 1780s, several frontier outposts had been established along the outskirts of the Smokies, namely Whitson's Fort in what is now Cosby and Weir's Fort in what is now Pigeon Forge. Permanent settlers began arriving in these areas in the 1790s. In 1801, the Whaley brothers, William and John, moved from North Carolina to become the first settlers in what is now the Greenbrier section of the park. The following year, Edgefield, South Carolina resident William Ogle arrived in White Oak Flats where he cut and prepared logs for cabin construction. Although Ogle died shortly after returning to Edgefield, his wife, Martha Jane Husky, eventually returned with her family and several other families to White Oak Flats, becoming the first permanent settlers in what would eventually become Gatlinburg. Their children and grandchildren spread out southward into the Sugarlands and Roaring Fork areas. Cad's Cove was settled largely by families who had purchased lots from land speculator William Fighting Billy Tipton. The first of these settlers, John and Lucretia Oliver, arrived in 1818. Two Cad's Cove settlers, Moses and Patience Proctor, crossed over to the North Carolina side of the Smokies in 1836 to become the first Euro-American settlers in the Hazel Creek area. The Catawba area was first settled by the Caldwell family, who migrated to the valley in 1834. Like most of southern Appalachia, the early 19th century economy of the Smokies relied on subsistence agriculture. The average farm consisted of roughly 50 acres, part of which was cultivated and part of which was woodland. Early settlers lived in 16 feet x 20 feet log cabins, although these were replaced by more elaborate log houses and eventually, as lumber became available, by modern frame houses. Most farms included at least one barn, a springhouse, a smokehouse, a chicken coop, and a corn crib. Some of the more industrious farmers operated grist mills, general stores, and sorghum presses. Religion was a central theme in the lives of the early residents of the Smokies, and community life was typically centered around churches. Christian Protestantism, especially Primitive Baptists, Missionary Baptists, Methodists, and Presbyterians, dominated the religious culture of the region. The American Civil War, while both Tennessee and North Carolina joined the Confederacy at the outbreak of the American Civil War in 1861, Union sentiment in the Great Smoky Mountains was much stronger relative to other regions in these two states. Generally, the communities on the Tennessee side of the Smokies supported the Union, while communities on the North Carolina side supported the Confederates. On the Tennessee side, 74% of Cock Countians, 80% of Blount Countians, and 96% of Sevier Countians voted against secession. On the North Carolina side, Haywood County, Jackson County, and Macon County voted for secession. While no major engagements took place in the Smokies, minor skirmishes were fairly common. Cherokee Chief William Holland Thomas formed a Confederate Legion made up mostly of Cherokee soldiers. Thomas' Legion crossed the Smokies in 1862 and occupied Gatlinburg for several months to protect saltpeter mines atop Mount LeConte. Residents of predominantly Union Cad's Cove and predominantly Confederate Hazel Creek routinely crossed the mountains to steal one another's livestock. Residents of Cosby and Catawba did likewise. One notable Civil War incident in the Smokies was the murder of longtime Cad's Cove resident Russell Gregory, which was carried out by bushwhackers in 1864 shortly after Gregory had led an ambush that routed a band of Confederates seeking to wreak havoc in the Cove. Another incident was George Kirk's raid on Catawba, in which Kirk killed or wounded 15 Union soldiers recovering at a makeshift hospital. Logging. While selective logging occurred in the Great Smoky Mountains throughout the 19th century, the general inaccessibility of the range's forests prevented major logging operations, and lumber firms relied on the lowland forests in the northeastern United States and the Mississippi Delta in the southeast. As timber resources in these regions became exhausted, and as the demand for lumber skyrocketed after the Civil War, entrepreneurs began looking for ways to reach the virgin forests of southern Appalachia. The first logging operations in the Smokies, which began in the 1880s, used splash dams or booms to float logs down rivers to lumber mills in nearby cities. Notable splash dam and boom operations included the English Lumber Company on Little River, the Taylor and Crate operations along Hazel Creek, and the ambitious operations of Alexander Arthur on the Pigeon River. All three of these operations failed within their first few years, however, after their dams and boom systems were destroyed by floods. Innovations in logging railroads and bandsaw technology in the late 19th century made large-scale logging possible in the mountainous areas of southern Appalachia. The largest logging operation in the Smokies was the Little River Lumber Company, which logged the Little River watershed between 1901 and 1939. The company also established company towns at Townsend, Elkmont, and Tremont. The second largest operation was the Ritter Lumber Company, which logged the Hazel Creek watershed between 1907 and 1928. Ruins of Ritter's lumbering operations are still visible along the Hazel Creek Trail. Other lumbering operations included 3M Lumber and Champion Fiber, both of which logged the Oconaluftee watershed. By the time all operations ceased in the 1930s, logging firms had removed two-thirds of the virgin forests of the Smokies. The National Park. Wilson B. Townsend, the head of Little River Lumber, began advertising Elkmont as a tourist destination in 1909. Within a few years, the Wonderland Hotel and the Appalachian Club had been established to cater to elite Knoxvillians seeking summer mountain getaways. In the early 1920s, several Appalachian Club members, among them Knoxville businessman Colonel David Chapman, began seriously considering a movement to establish a national park in the Great Smokies. As head of the Great Smoky Mountains Park Commission, Chapman was largely responsible for raising funds for land purchases and coordinating park efforts between local, state, and federal entities. The creation of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park proved much more complex than the creation of its predecessors, such as Yellowstone and Yosemite, which were already federally owned. Along with convincing logging firms to sell lucrative lumber rights, the Park Commission had to negotiate the purchase of thousands of small farms and remove entire communities. The Commission also had to deal with the Tennessee and North Carolina legislatures, which at times were opposed to spending taxpayer money on park efforts. In spite of these difficulties, the Park Commission had completed most major land purchases by 1932. The national park officially opened in 1934, with President Franklin D. Roosevelt presiding over the opening ceremony at Newfound Gap. Culture and tourism. The culture of the area is that of southern Appalachia, and previously the Cherokee people. Tourism is key to the area's economy, particularly in cities like Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg in Tennessee, and Cherokee, North Carolina. The Great Smoky Mountains Heritage Center opened in Townsend, Tennessee, in 2006 with the mission of preserving various aspects of the region's culture. Rafting, either leisurely river tubing or in full whitewater, is common all summer. Downhill skiing is also done in winter, though for a short season, at places like Cataloochee and Ober-Gatlinburg. Country music singer Dolly Parton was born and raised on a small farm in the Smokies. She writes many songs concerning her Tennessee upbringing, and starred in the 1986 film, A Smoky Mountain Christmas. On September 17, 2010, the documentary reality television series Man, Woman, Wild featured an episode about survival in the Smoky Mountains. See also, references. External links, official website, Great Smoky Mountains Association, a official non-profit partner of the park, maps, guides, photos, and videos. National Weather Service Southern Appalachian Precipitation Study, Great Smoky Mountains Institute at Tremont, Cornell University Study on Invasive Balsam Williard Algae Control, Geologic Map of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park Region, Tennessee and North Carolina United States Geological Survey, History and Maps, the Great Smoky Mountains Regional Project a collection of documents and early photographs regarding the Great Smokies and surrounding communities, Southern Appalachian English, transcripts a sound file samples of interviews of long-time residents of the Great Smokies conducted in 1939.